The desert had its own kind of silence, not the gentle stillness of snow or forest, but a silence that listened back. Highway 50 stretched into the black horizon, a brittle ribbon under the swollen desert moon. 4 friends had set off that morning from Denver: Tyler, Emily, Jordan, and Mia. They were on their way to a summer music festival outside Los Angeles, chasing laughter, cheap gas, and the promise of stories worth telling later. By midnight, the joke had worn thin. The playlist was nothing but static. The snacks had turned into dust and crumbs, and the air conditioning had surrendered somewhere around the Utah border. When the engine light flashed red, low fuel, Tyler tapped the dash like he could shame the machine into optimism. "Relax," he said, gripping the steering wheel a little too tightly. "We're fine. Next gas station is just down the highway. I saw a sign back there." Jordan yawned. "How far?" Tyler squinted at the GPS, which was zoomed so far out it looked like outer space. 4 miles, mile marker 237. Mia laughed from the back seat. "That sounds lucky, almost holy." "My bladder sure hopes so." So they kept driving, headlights slicing through the night. The moon looked swollen and close, like it was watching them drag themselves across its surface. Nothing existed beyond that narrow cone of light. No animals, no bugs, no sound. Just the endless hum of tires and the faint tinnitus of the desert. When the GPS froze and blinked, "Recalculating, recalculating," Tyler slapped it. Stupid thing. 4 miles, tops. But 4 became 8, then 10, the gas needle sinking steadily. Emily pressed her forehead to the window. "We've been in the same stretch forever. Did we pass it?" Jordan craned his neck to look behind. "It's the desert. It all looks like Mars. Probably just around the corner." They laughed to crush their unease, until the car coughed. Then, in the distance, something blinked. A faint pink neon sign, tilted at an angle. "Gas. Open. Mile 237. No building in sight, just that shimmer of dying light. The service station loomed up from the nothingness with a kind of resigned persistence, like it had been waiting there for half a century for anyone foolish enough to need it. A single pump, a cracked storefront, a metal awning that groaned as the wind pushed through. Tyler coasted the Subaru to a halt beside the pump. The engine sighed itself to sleep. "See?" he said, with the false cheerfulness of someone too tired to be afraid. "Everything's fine." Emily eyed the building. "You sure it's open? It looks abandoned." "Neon says it's open. Neon signs don't lie." They climbed out, boots crunching on gravel, hot air pressing against their faces even at this hour. The open sign flickered. Half the letters were dead. OPN. Inside, the air smelled of dust and copper. The fluorescent lights buzzed like trapped bees. Shelves carried a small archaeology of convenience store relics: Coke bottles with paper labels, potato chips from brands no one remembered, a rack of dog-eared postcards showing smiling tourists from the 1960s. Behind the counter stood a man in a beige work shirt, his cap pulled low, eyes hidden in its shadow. "Evening," he rasped. The voice was dry, static rough, like an old vinyl record left in the sun. "Long way from anywhere, huh?" Tyler rubbed his neck. "Yeah, we just need a fill-up. Maybe some coffee." He nodded thoughtfully. "The pump still works, if it wants to." He smiled faintly, teeth too white in the weak light. "Do you take cards?" His grin held. "Only things that still work out here are cash and regrets, miss." Jordan snorted. "Cool vibe," he whispered to Mia. Mia wandered the aisles, her phone held up for pictures, but every photo came out distorted, the colors inverted, faces blurred. "Okay, that's creepy," she muttered, deleting each one. Outside, Tyler lifted the nozzle and started pumping gas. The meter ticked upward, but the smell of fuel didn't come. The hose pulsed under his hand like a living vein. When he went back inside to pay, the man was gone. The counter sat empty. Only the low hum of the fridge filled the space. He called, "Hello?" Nothing. He left a 20 on the counter, a little act of optimism, and hurried out. The desert had grown even quieter. He couldn't hear the others talking. A faint whistle came from nowhere in particular, a hollow sound like breath inside a bottle. "All good?" Emily asked. "No one's in there, but I paid. Let's go." The car started reluctantly, engine groaning like something waking up unwillingly. They pulled back onto the highway, headlights brushing the sand. The GPS flickered and then came to life again. Next gas station, 4 miles, mile 237. Emily frowned. "Wait, what?" Probably just glitched. She looked behind them. The gas station had vanished into the dark already, like it had rolled back into the earth. For a while, everything seemed fine. Then Jordan pointed ahead. Isn't that?" The same pink neon glow shimmered through the dust. Same angle, same sign. Gas, open, mile 237. Tyler laughed a little too loudly. "There's probably 2 of them, franchises or something." "Right, ghost franchises, totally normal." They passed mile marker 237 again. The car shuddered. The odometer didn't move. The static on the radio thickened until it wasn't sound, but texture, like dust in their ears. Another 10 minutes, another mile 237. Emily pressed her palms to her knees. "Tyler, pull over, seriously." The car rolled to the shoulder. Sand hissed beneath the tires. They sat there in silence, engine ticking as metal cooled. Jordan muttered, "This feels wrong, man." Tyler jabbed at the GPS, screen blank. When he opened his phone's camera to check for a signal, a photograph flashed. The 4 of them, sitting in the car, taken from outside. He hadn't pressed the shutter. In the background, beyond the desert, something like another car loomed, identical, but wrecked. His mouth drew dry. Emily looked at her own window. A thin fog of condensation bloomed across the glass. She touched it and felt it move beneath her fingers, like someone was breathing from the other side. Letters formed slowly. "Turn back." Mia screamed. Tyler shoved the car into reverse, spinning around onto the opposite lane. "Whatever this is, we're not playing along," he said, voice shaking. They drove, faster and faster, wind screaming through a crack in the window. 15 miles later, a pink light appeared ahead. Gas, open, mile 237.
Tyler parked anyway. He needed answers. Inside, the gas station had changed. It looked cleaner, newer, shelves neatly stocked. Jazz played softly from somewhere. A glass cooler hummed with neatly lined soda bottles. Behind the counter stood the same man, or his younger self. Same eyes, now visible and bright blue. Same smirk curved into something warmer. "Evening," he said, like a phrase practiced for eternity. "Long way from anywhere, huh?" Tyler's voice fractured. "We were here an hour ago." "An hour?" the man said cheerfully. "No, son. Ain't been any travelers down this road in a long time. Not since the accident of '62. He pointed at a rack of newspapers. Bold headline, 4 killed in late-night crash near mile 237. The photo beneath showed a twisted car recognizable even through black and white distortion. Tyler's Subaru. Mia whispered, "This isn't happening." Outside, through the window, they saw the car again. Crumpled, on fire, 4 figures silhouetted inside. Emily pressed her hands to the glass. No, 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 no! Tyler backed away, heartbeat roaring in his ears. His reflection in the window seemed an instant behind his movement, and then failed to mirror him at all. It just stood there, staring, expressionless. The clerk tilted his head. Some roads, they keep on taking. Some folks keep on giving themselves to it. You kids, you were halfway gone before you even left Denver. Why us? Jordan yelled. The man shrugged. Why anyone? The road wants stories. You were looking for one. The lights flickered. The jazz stuttered and slowed until each saxophone note stretched into a moan. Tyler's phone buzzed against his palm. Incoming call from unknown. He answered on impulse. His own voice said on the line, breathless, terrified, "Don't stop. Don't talk to him. Drive until sunrise. Don't—" Then static. When he looked up, the clerk was gone again. Only their reflections remained in the dusty glass of the fridge, except each reflection faced away, turned towards some invisible horizon. They felt suddenly like the world itself had gone concave, bending inward around them. They stumbled outside. The sky had changed color, no longer night, not quite dawn, a bruised gray without direction. Their car sat waiting, unscratched, as if new. Mia hesitated. What if it's not our car? Tyler didn't answer. He climbed in. The interior smelled faintly of gasoline and something metallic, like old pennies. They drove. No horizon, no stars, just road and fog. The signs changed. Mile 236, mile 235, mile 234, then suddenly jumped back, mile 237. The world pulsed, stretching and snapping like a heartbeat. Tyler felt dizzy. He looked in the rearview mirror and saw the gas station chasing them, smaller but keeping pace, its lights flickering like a distant predator's eyes. Emily began crying quietly. Tyler, please stop. He couldn't. His foot pressed the pedal by itself. The speedometer climbed past 100, then 120. The road blurred. Static filled the car, pressing against them like invisible water. Jordan shouted, Ty, there's something in the road! A shadow stepped forward, tall, human-shaped, but hollow like a cutout from darkness itself. Tyler swerved. Tyre screamed. The world went white. When the light faded, everything was calm again. Air conditioning hummed. The Subaru rolled along smoothly. Next gas station in 4 miles, mile 237, the GPS announced cheerily. Emily smiled drowsily, resting her head on his shoulder. Finally, I really have to pee. Tyler stared at the odometer, zeroed out. His knuckles were slick with sweat. Deja vu, Jordan said. Didn't we say that before? Tyler forced a laugh. We've been on the road too long. But when they sped past the barren stretch, Tyler noticed something impossible. A silhouette standing beside the shoulder. 4 silhouettes. Watching them pass. Mouths open, in silent scream.
By late morning, the desert had burned clean again. A long-haul trucker named Clay was hauling freight toward Reno when he spotted movement near mile marker 237. He slowed, frowning at the sight of dust pluming off the shoulder. There, half buried in sand, stood the ruin of an old gas station. Broken roof, rusted pump, windows like blind eyes. As he rolled past, something flashed. Glare-off metal, maybe. Curiosity tugged at him. He braked, swung into the lot. The door hung slack on one hinge, squealing as the wind touched it. Inside, everything was ash-gray and quiet. A set of tire tracks, fresh, curved in and stopped dead at the pump. No footprints. On the counter lay a cell phone, screen cracked.
He tapped the button. The camera app opened automatically, showing the desert road outside. Live feed. Except something moved in the feed that wasn't in real life. A car idling by the pump. 4 people inside, smiling tiredly at the camera. The phone buzzed violently, showing one last photo. The same car, flames blooming through its windows, moon high above, despite the bright noon. He flinched, dropped it. When he looked up, the neon sign outside blinked once. Gas, open, powered somehow for just that moment. A whisper scraped across the static of his radio. Evenin'. Long way from anywhere, huh? He froze. The road behind him shimmered, heat rising in ghostly ripples. For an instant he thought he saw them, the 4 travelers, standing on the shoulder, silently begging for a ride. He slammed the door, threw the truck into gear, and didn't look back. By the time the sun dipped below the horizon, the road was empty again. Only the sign at mile 237 flickered weakly in the dark. Night fell. The desert resumed its endless listening. Somewhere, an engine started, headlights flared, and laughter echoed across the silence. 4 young voices, full of life and noise. The road bent quietly, almost pleased. It had stories to keep.
The map called it State Route 19, but to the people who still lived along it, the farmers and truckers and the lonely gas station owners, this stretch of highway through Iowa was simply the line. It ran as straight as a carpenter's nail for almost 70 miles, bordered by endless fields of corn that moved like dark water when the wind turned rough. It had been there long before the interstates and long after the government stopped funding its repair. Most of the reflective mile markers had been stolen for scrap or souvenirs. The only piece of folklore the locals told about 19 was this: never stop after midnight between mile 81 and 87. There's someone still trying to get home. Abby and Mark Stevens weren't locals. They were a young couple who thought the Midwest would be a nice change of pace. Mark had taken a new job in Des Moines, and Abby, who worked remotely as a web designer, packed up their cat, their mismatched mugs, and their sense of optimism. By the time they crossed into Iowa, the cat was asleep, the optimism less so. Rain began near Omaha and deepened into a steady curtain by late evening. The wipers kept time with an invisible metronome. Swish, swish, thump. I'm starving, and we haven't seen a diner since Nebraska. Mark checked the GPS. There's a dot called Deering up ahead. Says population 1,204. Ever hear of it? Abby squinted. Nope. Perfect. Maybe they serve pie. The phone buzzed no signal, but the blue arrow on the screen still pointed southeast. A hand-painted sign appeared through the rain. Deering, right 2 miles. They turned right. The access road was rougher, poorly paved, lined with telephone poles whose wires hung slack like old ropes. Halfway down, a figure stood under the skeletal shape of a bus stop, one of those concrete shelters with advertisements faded beyond recognition. The figure wore a gray trench coat, soaked through, and held a small suitcase. Abby frowned. We should stop. Nobody should be out in this. Mark hesitated. We don't even know if he's... But she was already lowering the window slightly. The man turned his head. Raindrops traced his cheekbones like glass beads. Need a lift? She called. He nodded slowly. Voice steady. Just a few miles east. My home's past Deering. Mark sighed, unlocked the doors. All right, hop in. The man slid into the back seat, setting his suitcase neatly on the floor. Thank you kindly, he said, accent faintly old-fashioned,
formal. "Name's Harold Monroe." "Abby," she said, "and this is Mark." Harold smiled faintly. "Pleasure to meet the both of you." Something about the way he phrased it, deliberate, rhythmical, made Mark glance into the rear-view mirror more than once. The man's features were unremarkable, yet his reflection seemed slightly delayed, like the mirror lagged a half-second behind reality. Abby tried small talk. "So, Deering, nice town?" "Was. Fine place once." He looked out the window. "You said you're headed east." "Yeah," Mark said. "Moving to Des Moines." "Ah." He tapped the glass softly. "Good city. You'll want to avoid the bypass this time of year, though. Floods where the old river used to be." Abby tilted her head. "The old river?" He didn't answer. After a pause too long to be polite, Mark asked, "How far did you say your place was?" "Not far now, past the sign." The rain tapered to a drizzle. Lightning showed the outlines of what had once been a crossroads, a rusted street sign, 2 leaning lamp posts, and a single stone archway with the word Deering carved across its top. Behind it, emptiness. No lights, no houses, only flattened ground overrun with weeds. Abby whispered, "Is this—" Harold smiled faintly. "Home." He pointed. "Take the next left. There's a farmstead near the water tower." Mark's grip tightened on the wheel. "Look, there's nothing out there. Are you sure?" "Please," Harold said gently. "It's been a long road." Against every pragmatic instinct, Mark turned left. The headlights discovered a cracked, overgrown driveway. The gravel popped beneath the tires. Through the wipers, she could see the outline of a building, a 2-story farmhouse sagging at angles, its siding the color of ashes. The tower behind it leaned like a drunk. Harold exhaled. "Ah, still here." He opened the door, suitcase in hand. "Thank you kindly." Abby leaned towards him. "Wait, you can't just— Are you sure you're—" But he had already stepped into the field, feet sinking slightly into mud that looked far too dark. The world around them seemed muffled, as if wrapped in wool. Then, nothing. When Abby blinked, he was gone. Back on the highway, both of them stayed silent until the rain resumed. Mark finally said, "That was messed up. The man was delusional or something." Abby shook her head. "That place looked hollow, like it wasn't really there." They drove for another 10 minutes before the GPS revived. Next right, Deering, 2 miles. Abby's stomach dropped. "Mark, we just—" He didn't look at the screen. He just pressed the accelerator. "The GPS is glitching." But 2 miles later, this same sign appeared. Deering, right, 2 miles. Same bullet holes in the wood, same crow perched on top. Then the same bus stop, and standing under it, Harold Monroe. Dry now. Suitcase immaculate. Mark stomped the brakes. The cat yowled. Abby whispered, "He's dead, isn't he?" Harold waved pleasantly, as if greeting acquaintances expected, right on schedule.
They didn't stop this time. Mark swerved past him, tires spraying water. But a mile later, red and blue lights flashed in the rearview mirror. A state trooper flagged them down. The officer was tall, gray-haired, polite but fatigued. His badge read, H. Delaney. "Evening, folks. Little late for sightseeing." Mark explained in a rush, the man, the suitcase, the town that wasn't a town. Delaney scratched his chin. "You said Deering?" "Yes." Abby leaned forward. "Does it exist or not?" He sighed. "Once did. Wiped out in '83. Gas leak sparked an explosion near the grain elevator. Whole place leveled. They rebuilt partway, but people moved off pretty quick.
Roads ain't maintained. You shouldn't be driving out there. Bad luck stretch. Abby glanced at Mark. Sir, we saw him. Delaney narrowed his eyes. Harold Monroe? They nodded. He rubbed his temple, muttering. Figures. You're not the first. Excuse me? Mark said. Folks see him sometimes around here. Always rains when he shows up. Wants a ride home to Deering, but there's no Deering left to go to. Abby whispered, We drove him home. Delaney returned their licenses, voice low. Then you'd best keep moving. He don't follow far if you don't invite him twice. Thunder rolled again. By 1 a.m., the police cruiser that had pulled them over was long behind them, and Abby dozed against the window. Mark gripped the wheel, telling himself the flash he'd seen in the mirror was lightning, not headlights forming a few car lengths behind. But the sound came anyway. Tap, tap, tap on the rear windshield, gentle as rain. He twisted around. Through the streaked glass, he saw a pale face smiling from the back seat. The seat was empty. Then a voice, inches from his ear. Turn left, Mr. Stevens. Nearly home now. The car skidded. Abby awoke with a scream. Mark, what? He stared at the road. The GPS map was gone, replaced by a grayscale radar-like image, a blinking dot crawling toward a label that said simply, Deering, population 1,204, as if the town had returned. He shut the phone off, threw it into the dash compartment. No more detours. Abby's voice shook. You heard him too? Yes. They didn't speak again until the horizon began whitening with dawn.
Their new apartment in Des Moines sat above an old bakery that smelled perpetually of cinnamon oil. In ordinary daylight, the road trip felt almost imaginary. But Abby couldn't sleep. She dreamed of endless rows of corn shimmering like metal, and of a man standing knee-deep in it waving. Mark found her researching 2 nights later, laptop glow painting her face pale. Listen, she said. Local obituary archives. Harold Monroe, died 1983, explosion at the Deering grain elevator. 42 years old, survived by no one. Mark looked at the scanned newspaper photo, the same calm eyes under a wide-brimmed hat. He tried to close the tab. Don't feed it. He thanked us, she whispered, like we'd done something he needed us to do. 3 weeks later, during the first real thunderstorm of the season, the bakery's lights flickered. The smell of rain filled their apartment like a flood. Abby glanced out into the street, almost empty. A single lamppost buzzed above a bench, and a man with a suitcase sat beneath it. She didn't call for Mark. She just watched. He lifted his head slowly, met her eyes through the glass, and raised one hand in a polite greeting. My home's past Deering. The words echoed inside her skull, though his mouth didn't move. Mark rushed in, found her standing stiff, her reflection in the window trembling differently from her body. Abby, what is it? She pointed, but the bench was empty. Only the puddles remained, and in one of them, for a half-second, she saw letters rippling on the water's surface as if written from below. Thank you. Autumn blurred into winter. They avoided Route 19. They learned its rhythm, a silent agreement between driver and road to forget each other. But roads remember. One December night, heading home from a friend's dinner, they missed the exit. Snow swallowed everything until the GPS read, recalculating via State Route 19. Mark's hands tightened. Abby whispered, no. The phone refused another route. And soon the familiar fields emerged, blackened, skeletal corn still standing like sentries. Then the sign, Deering, right, 2 miles. Mark turned onto the shoulder, trembling. We can't outrun it. Lightning flashed, and there he was, standing calmly in the middle of the road, coat unbuttoned, suitcase gone. Harold smiled the same gentle smile.
"Home isn't a place," he said, though the sound came from everywhere, mixing with the snow. Abby opened the door despite the wind whipping her hair sideways. "What do you want from us?" He looked relieved. "Just company on the way there." She shook her head. "There is no there." "Then we'll make it together." Mark shouted, "Get in!" But she could hardly see him now. Harold's form was blending with the stormlight, edges smearing like wet paint. Abby felt an incredible pull forward, as though gravity had shifted sideways. He reached for her hand. The headlights flared, and everything went white. Aftermath. Mark woke in his car an hour later, engine idling, snow turned to slush. Abby's seatbelt was still fastened, her coat was warm. She was gone. The passenger door hung open, footprints led into the corn but stopped after 3 steps. Far off, faintly, a whistle sounded, like distant train brakes, though no rails ran this way anymore. He dialed 911 with numb fingers. When the dispatcher picked up, the line was dense with static. A calm voice, unmistakable, spoke through the interference. "Just a few miles east. My home's past Deering." The call dropped. By dawn, troopers found the Subaru empty and idling. Nothing around but quiet fields and a half-buried stone arch that once bore 7 carved letters. Deering. Only the last 3 were still readable. They found the cat hiding under a seat, purring when someone said, "Home." On the floor beside it lay a waterlogged suitcase. Inside, nothing but a folded newspaper clipping from August 1983. Photo of Harold Monroe standing in front of the Deering grain elevator. Headline half erased by mold. Town plans rebuild after tragedy. Residents vow to come home. If you drive east on State Route 19 after midnight, you'll sometimes see a woman with wet hair standing by a broken bus shelter, suitcase at her feet. She'll wave politely for a ride and say her husband is already waiting at home just past Deering. Truckers swear you can smell cinnamon in the car for miles afterwards, even with the windows closed. And when the rain comes harder, lightning shows 2 figures walking side by side through the fields, a man in a gray trench coat and a woman with mismatched boots, heading toward a town that no longer exists but might again someday, if enough lost travelers remember its name.
There's a stretch of highway through the mountains where no one's phone should work. No bars, no Wi-Fi, not even static. Just silence, thick enough to feel. Locals call it the Hollow Road, and even locals drive it only in daylight. Every year, a few tourists get themselves lost trying to cut across the Appalachians faster. Every few years, someone finds their car neatly parked at the tree line, empty, engine cold, hazard lights pulsing like a heartbeat. And on the dash, one phone, screen cracked, last log reading, emergency call 911, 1:36 a.m. It started with rain. Samantha Chen was driving 3 friends from Raleigh to Pittsburgh for a hiking weekend: Chris, Danny, and Luis. They'd left late, the storm rolled early, and the GPS happily rerouted them onto a shorter scenic path. By 10 that evening, the scenic path was a writhing 1-lane strip between black trees. The mountains crowded around the headlights, branches crunching above like ribs closing over. "Turn back," Danny said softly from the back seat. "Let's crash in a motel." Louis squinted at his phone. No signal. Sam laughed thinly. "We're fine. 30 more miles and we hit the freeway." They didn't. After another hour, they reached a crossroads that wasn't on any map. A peeling sign read, "County RD 47. That way. Arrow. That way. Arrow.
Dry Creek. The arrow to Dry Creek pointed into pure darkness. Chris unfolded the paper map like a relic. Dry Creek isn't on this either. Lightning strobed, showing a ranger station collapsed into itself, and a hand-lettered note nailed to the post beside it. If you hear yourself, don't answer. Luis read it twice. Who writes that? Thunder swallowed their laughter before it could start. 10 miles later, the road narrowed again. The forest grew so thick that the headlights bounced back from trunks only a few feet away. Then the car jolted, a flat tire. Sam pulled over into mud. Rain roared on the roof. The temperature dropped like a trapdoor opening. While Chris wrestled with the jack, Danny muttered, "We should call for help." Luis waved his phone. 0 bars. Sam tried hers and blinked. Wait, I'm showing one option. Emergency only. She dialed 911. Rings, then a quiet click. 911, what is your emergency? Came a voice. Relief burst out of her. We're stranded on County 47, near Dry Creek. Flat tire, no signal. The voice interrupted gently. Stay in the vehicle, do not go into the woods. Sam hesitated. Okay, are you sending someone? Yes, please keep the line open. The connection cracked with static. Underneath the static, she thought she heard herself, fainter, repeating her own words half a second late. Sam froze. Hello? The same voice, her own voice, whispered, Stay in the vehicle, do not go into the woods. Then the line died. 5 minutes later, the radio switched on by itself. A news broadcast, tinny, half buried under hiss. 4 local hikers remain missing after entering the Pisgah backroads late Thursday night. Their vehicle was recovered on County 47. Chris frowned. That's us. Luis snapped it off. Old recording, wrong frequency. But the air inside the car had changed. The rain no longer struck the windshield. It tapped in deliberate triplets like code. Tap, tap, tap. Pause. Tap, tap, tap. Danny whispered, Does anyone else smell smoke? They all did. Faint wood smoke drifting from the trees, though the rain hadn't stopped. When lightning flared, they saw a cabin ahead just off the road, its windows pulsing with warm orange light. A sign swung crookedly from the porch rail. Ranger station, emergency phone inside. Luis exhaled. We walk there, call for help, done. Sam should have said no. Instead, 5 minutes. Mud grabbed at their shoes. Trees leaned closer than they should have. The cabin looked solid enough until they reached the porch, where the wood was nothing but brittle bark over empty space. Lantern light flickered inside, but the room beyond seemed underwater, colors too slow to move. Chris turned the knob. The door sighed open. No furniture except a single desk holding an antique rotary phone. Danny stared at it. That can't work. The phone rang. They all jerked. Luis whispered, Don't. Sam picked it up. Who is this? Only static, then a breath. Sam, said her own voice, weak, afraid. Don't hang up. You're almost out of time. She dropped the receiver. It swung on its cord, tapping gently against the desk. Each swing matched the rhythm of the rain outside. When they looked up, the lantern light was gone. Total dark. They bolted for the car. But the road was no longer there, just forest. Trees where asphalt had been 30 seconds ago. Chris shouted, disbelieving, crashing through branches. It was right here. Luis pointed his flashlight.
The beam cut only a few yards before smothering in mist. Sam dialed 911 again out of desperation. One ring. Click. 911, what is your emergency? Same measured tone. We're lost. We can't find the road. Static swarmed. Then her own voice again, frantic. Sam, listen, they're not trees. Don't let it touch you. Silence. Behind them, something moved. Tall silhouettes parting, not with steps, but with a dry, whispering slide. The rain had stopped, yet droplets still fell, lighter than water, clearer than air. A beam pierced the mist ahead. Headlights. A truck, ancient and dented, idled on what might have been cleared ground. A ranger coat stood beside it, waving. Hey, Chris yelled. They stumbled toward the light. The ranger's face was shadowed under the hat. You shouldn't be here, he said mildly. Road's closed. Always has been. Luis grabbed his arm. We just need directions, or a tow. The man smiled without teeth. Oh, I don't tow. I just answer calls. He gestured to the radio unit in the truck, a glowing console with the digits 911 etched deep into its dial. Sam whispered, You answered us. He tilted his head. Did I, or did you answer yourselves? Hard to tell once the signal folds. Chris backed away. What does that mean? The ranger reached out one gloved hand toward the group radio mic. Every call has to connect somewhere. Sometimes it connects backwards. Thunder shuddered. The forest flared white. When they blinked, he was gone. They found the car again 20 minutes later, except it was parked sideways against a tree trunk, windshield spiderwebbed, hazard lights blinking. Inside sat 4 shapes, slumped. Luis whispered, That can't be us. Sam walked closer despite her legs locking. The nearest figure had her haircut, her jacket. Its phone was lit. Emergency call. Connected. Her own phone buzzed in her pocket. She answered. Static, and that same strained whisper. Stay in the vehicle. Do not go into the woods. She dropped it into the bud. Danny screamed. The slumped bodies in the car inhaled. What happened next, Sam never remembered clearly. Running, branches clawing, the world twisting sideways, the drumbeat of her own pulse matching that endless tap, tap, tap. She could hear the others behind her, or ahead of her, voices overlapping like echoes recorded wrong. When she fell, the ground gave way to water, cold, metal-tasting water. From below came the muffled ring of a telephone. She reached for it because there was nothing else to reach for. Recovered from the emergency dispatch anomaly log, October 12th, Pisgah County. 1:36 a.m. incoming call, unknown ID. Operator, 911, what is your emergency? Caller, we're lost. County 47, please send someone. Operator, calm down, stay in the vehicle. Caller, who is this? Operator, Samantha Chen, don't hang up. Operator, stay in the vehicle, do not go into the woods. Connection terminated.
A month later, a survey crew found the Subaru half a mile from where the paved road actually ended. Tire marks indicated the car had veered off, as if avoiding something unseen. All 4 doors were open, but only one set of footprints led away. No return tracks. Each phone in the car showed a single log at 1:36 a.m., 40 minutes apart, identical recordings. Rain warped, yet distinct. Stay in the vehicle. Do not go into the woods. Truckers still haul through those mountains. When it rains hard enough, their CB radios pick up stray emergency frequencies. Sometimes a woman's voice breaks through, calm but urgent, repeating coordinates that don't exist anymore. Sometimes a second voice, hers again, echoes a half-second later.
They say if you ever get lost out there and your phone suddenly shows a single bar of service, don't answer it. Because whatever's on the other end isn't the dispatcher. It's just the call trying to finish connecting.
Every trucker who's driven the old section of Route 66 west of Amarillo knows about Rest Area 13. It's not on any current map, but at night a green sign sometimes appears after mile 416, white letters flaking like dead skin. Rest Area 13, next right. Most drivers roll past, pretending they never saw it. The few who stop usually don't again. Ray Coop Cooper had been hauling refrigerators for 36 hours straight. The dispatch computer back in Memphis thought the job would take 2 days. Coop thought he could make it in 1. Caffeine, nicotine, and regret. Standard fuel. The desert night was absolute. The only sound? Diesel heartbeat under his seat. His GPS blinked low signal. Then the road sign appeared out of nowhere, popping into the reach of his high beams. Rest Area 13, next right. Coop frowned. 13? There's only 11 on this stretch. He touched the brake just enough to read the smaller print beneath. Vending, restrooms, 24 hours. Coffee machine. Good enough. He turned off onto the ramp. Gravel crackled. Dust rose. The rest area unfurled like a half-remembered dream. Concrete lot, picnic tables petrified under a sodium lamp haze, vending building at the far end. The sign above the building glowed pale green. Bugs moved inside its glass like trapped souls. He parked beside a single other rig. Identical Freightliner, same decal, same Cooper & Sons hauling logo. Coop blinked. Now that's funny. Didn't know the old man sent another truck. But the cab was empty, engine cold. He stepped out, air sharp with ozone. His phone read 3:16 a.m. and no service. Inside the vending hall, fluorescent lights hummed like lost bees. Machines lined one wall, their plastic fronts scratched milky. The coffee dispenser screen still worked, sort of. He pressed black coffee. The machine rattled, paused, then coughed up a steaming paper cup marked, "Welcome back, Ray." His throat dried. He glanced around. No one. A mirror panel above the sink reflected the room perfectly, except for one detail. His reflection stood slightly closer, breathing slower than he was. He raised a hand. The reflection followed, late by maybe half a heartbeat. The door creaked open behind him. A man entered wearing the same denim jacket, same truck stop cap, same road dust tiredness. Coop froze. The man looked up, equally startled. Well, I'll be damned. They stared for a full 10 seconds. Name's Ray Cooper, both said at once. Silence stretched so thin it hummed. Finally the newcomer grinned. Guess dispatch double-booked destiny. Coop tried to laugh. It came out dry. Funny. You heading west too? Barstow Depot. Me too. They shook hands. Skin to skin, the other's palm felt warm, real, heartbeat mirroring his own. They sat at a picnic table outside, 2 steaming cups like twin comets in the dark. The other Coop, he called himself Ray B., claiming the B stood for Benjamin, though Coop didn't remember any middle name. Talked easily about roots, bad weather, old jobs. Every story matched Coop's life exactly, until tiny differences crept in. He said their father still owned the business. Coop's father had been dead 3 years. He said he'd divorced Lisa in '08. Coop had married her that year. When he laughed, it sounded slightly wrong, the vowels too smooth. Coop glanced toward the 2 trucks. The second one's running lights blinked in time with his heartbeat. He excused himself, needing air, or an excuse to escape. Inside the restrooms, tile glistened with condensation, though the night was bone dry. A buzzing bulb spat sparks every few seconds. At the sink, he caught his own eyes in the mirror, same delay. He touched the glass, cold, but vibrating faintly, as if a small engine idled behind it. The stall door opened on its own. He stepped closer, expecting emptiness. Instead, he found the smell of diesel and a faint rhythmic tapping, the sound a turn signal makes when you've forgotten to switch it off. From inside the stall came a whisper in his own voice. "You'll fall asleep at mile 441. Don't let him drive." He staggered back, heart jamming painfully against his ribs. When he looked again, the stall was empty. Outside, the picnic table stood deserted. The second truck's engine rumbled now, lights on. He hurried toward it and climbed the side rail. The cab window was half rolled down. Inside sat not Ray B., but himself. Head leaned back, eyes closed, snoring lightly. Coop scrambled down, lungs stuttering. He rushed to his own rig. Inside, it smelled the same. Stale coffee, heat, and some faint chemical, sweet scent like antifreeze. The dashboard clock read 4:01 a.m. He'd lost 45 minutes. Adrenaline carried him back onto the highway. He'd drive straight to daylight, forget this rest area ever existed. The CB radio crackled alive after miles of silence. "Breaker 4-1, anyone eastbound, you copy?" The voice sounded like his own, maybe slightly older. Coop swallowed. "Copy. Watch yourself around mile 441, deer on the road." Static swallowed the rest. He flicked the radio off. At mile 441, the pavement shimmered under the high beams, heat mirage in the cold. Then a shape lurched from the shoulder. Coop slammed the brakes. The deer stood upright at the last instant, his own figure, eyes reflected in red, hand lifted as if to flag him down. Impact. Morning found state troopers piecing together fragments by the rail. White lines of chalk, tire gouges scored into asphalt, a jackknifed rig smoldering 60 yards away. The officer took his notes. One truck registered to Cooper and Sons, driver Raymond Cooper, confirmed deceased. No second vehicle located. Witness report. Looked like the poor bastard tried to avoid his own reflection. They towed the wreck to an impound lot outside Tucumcari. That night, the lot guard swore he heard an idling engine from inside the locked bay. When he peered through the window, 2 rigs waited nose to nose under the flicker of a broken light. One gleaming new, one charred ruin, and a man sat in each cab, gesturing as if in conversation. By autumn, drivers told the story as gospel. "You see rest area 13? Keep rollin'. Don't pull in, don't blink twice, 'cause the man drinking coffee there looks just like you, and he's tired of taking turns." Some say the area moves, hitchhiking westward, mile by mile, fed by every story retold over diner counters at 5 a.m. Others claim Coopers, plural, still haul that stretch, swapping places each dawn to keep the line unbroken between the living and the road. One thing agrees, the next driver who dozes off near mile 441 sometimes wakes to a second logbook on the passenger seat, identical handwriting but different cargo listed. And at the bottom of the page, scrawled in pen too shaky to be his, a small note. "Welcome back, Ray. I'll sleep a while. You drive." Extract, Cooper and Sons hauling internal system. Job ID C441-TX. Driver, Cooper RR, deceased. Driver, Cooper RB, active. Cargo, refrigeration units, return load, undeclared. ETA, ongoing. Status, in transit. System remark, position data looping between mile 116 and 441.
Each time the dispatcher clears the entry, it reappears 6 minutes later, time-stamped updated, progress unchanged. Years later, newbie drivers still spot it glowing on certain foggy nights. Rest area 13, next right. Sometimes they swear they glimpse 2 identical semis already parked side by side, diesel haze curling like phantom breath above them. And if you look too long into the side mirror while passing, you might notice your reflection blinking a second after you do, mouth moving like it's about to ask for coffee.